Hey guys, today I will be presenting on West Nile virus, and this is caused by the flavivirus, and the common name is just West Nile virus. It doesn't have any other names, that's the only one. And it's in the Flaviviridae family, which is a positive single-stranded enveloped virus. And this is also known to cause other diseases you may have heard of, such as yellow fever, dengue fever, Zika, everyone knows that one, and Japanese encephalitis. And this family of viruses are commonly found in arthropods, so for example, that's mosquitoes and ticks. So these are all vector-transmitted diseases. The symptoms, and I apologize if my video cuts out some of the words, but 8 out of 10 people actually don't develop any symptoms, so you could have it and you just don't know. However, 1 in 5 do develop a febrile illness, and 1 in 150 develop a severe central nervous system illness. So febrile is basically just a fever, and just like any other disease you may get, any other virus or maybe the flu, similar symptoms: headache, body ache, joint pains, rash, vomiting. And most of the time, people recover. Could take weeks, sometimes it could take months. But unlike the serious illness or the severe illness, which can last very long, this is a central nervous system illness. So the West Nile virus affects your central nervous system. So this includes encephalitis or meningitis. Encephalitis is inflammation of the brain. And this is where it has a few names. So the severe illness could be called a neuroinvasive disease or West Nile poliomyelitis, which is due to the fact that you can get paralysis and coma and neck stiffness, which are again things that are associated with actually polio. And 1 out of 10 people who get severe illness actually die. So the way that this disease is diagnosed is a little bit complicated. It's diagnosed by using ELISA, which is an enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. And basically the way it works is you add an antibody to perhaps a well, and then you add whatever antigen you want to identify, and if it binds, it'll change color, and then that's how you know that you have that disease or that it's positive, the test is positive. And a number of different ways of diagnosing this disease, including a seroconversion, which basically is the time period during which the antibody develops, so how fast, and when it becomes detectable in the blood. So that tells you, okay, you have a higher amount of IgG, then you're probably infected with something. They also use antibody capture, which is sort of similar. Neutralization assay, which is basically when you detect the antibody that may block viral replication. And also reverse transcriptase, or PCR, which basically amplifies certain targets in the blood, which then tell you if you have that disease. And of course, viral isolation by cell culture, which you just try to grow the virus in the lab, and if you do, then you got it. ELISA, as I explained, is enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. So basically this just focuses on detecting antibodies, and it's used for has a lot of different uses as well. As I explained here, also, if you have a negative reaction, then it won't bind and the color won't change. Transmission, again, as I explained, is vector by vector, which means that you have to be bitten by a mosquito and you have to get the disease from their saliva. However, the mosquito has to get the disease from birds. So a mosquito goes and bites a bird and then bites a human or a horse or a dog. And you cannot get this disease human to human, so you can't get it from somebody coughing on you or, exchanging bodily fluids. Well, there's an exception, I shouldn't say that. You can get it from blood or organ donations. So you have to be very careful to, whenever you give blood or get blood, make sure that you're not sick or you have a trusted source of where you're getting this blood. And you can also get it from animal fluids. So if you're handling perhaps a sick animal, you can get it, however, not necessarily from birds, because like if you're handling a dead bird, it's not like, they're not going to get all over. You should wear gloves anyway, but you can get it from animal fluids. The animal host or the reservoir of infection is a bird, and the common mosquito vector in the United States is Culex pipiens, which is up here in the right-hand corner. So basically, like I explained before, a mosquito bites an infected bird, then bites a human, then the mosquito may bite another bird and infect that bird. So not all birds have the virus, so it's not like they all carry it all the time. They have to get it, but usually it's like a chain reaction. They just keep giving it back to each other. As a result of this, actually, 1 million birds die every year, and it's actually a really big problem. For example, this bird right here, it's called a vireo. The West Nile virus has killed 15 million of them, and that's 1/3 of their population. So it's actually killed 1/3 of their population. So the problem with this virus is it's killing off animals, and we could actually see animals popping up on the endangered species list as a result of this. So it's a really serious problem, not just for humans. The West Nile virus is a relatively new discovery. It was discovered in Uganda in 1937 in the West Nile district, cue the name, and when they were testing for it, they actually thought it was yellow fever at first, and then they found out, oh, well, this is something different. Since that time, there's been multiple outbreaks in Europe, Africa, and Israel. In fact, it was in Egypt when they first started testing. They basically went out and tested all the animals around the Nile area, and that's when they first identified the agent in the lab. And in 1999 is when it first came to the United States, to New York, and it's still kind of unknown how it came. Some people think that a mosquito somehow hitched a ride on an airplane, or it could be that somebody brought exotic birds over who were infected, and then a mosquito bit them, and etc. And since 1999, it's spread across the country. In about 3 years, it spread across the country, and this is due to bird migration, people bringing birds across, anything, because birds are the hosts. So 2002 was when the biggest outbreak ever has occurred, and that was in the United States. There were 4,156 cases, and you can see here on the map the spread as it grew across the years. And then on the bottom is basically just showing what regions are affected by this disease. So I wanted to focus on not just humans, but horses as well, because, like I said, I think it's really interesting that this is a virus that people are concerned not only about humans, but people are actually very concerned about animals and birds with this disease. So since 1999, it's infected 25,000 horses in the United States. And the infection rate is 85%, so it was pretty likely if a horse gets it, they will become infected. And similar to humans, horses can be asymptomatic, but it can take them a while to show symptoms. Their mortality rate is 35%, so that means that 2/3 of horses can recover. However, 40% who recover will have neurological effects. So similar to humans, horses are affected in the central nervous system as well. However, again, this is a kind of a weird virus. It doesn't spread from human to human, and doesn't spread from horse to human. It doesn't spread from horse to horse. So it is purely mosquito, bird driven, though, again, you can't get it from a bird. You have to get it from a mosquito. So there's some of the symptoms that horses have. I just wanted to go through this just to kind of show you the similarities and the differences. So with humans, when we get the virus, and it's not the severe illness, we just have fever, muscle aches, But with horses, it's kind of interesting. They have a fever, but they also get ataxia, so they're unsteady on their feet. Recumbency, which is when they just won't get up. They'll lie down and they just won't get up. They have muscle tremors. I know that other people have reported behavioral changes, depression, dysphagia, and also coma. So, 1 in 150 people get a serious illness from West Nile virus, but with the horses, it's like if the horses get the disease, then they have all these other extreme symptoms, such as we don't have that. The other really interesting thing that I found with this is that there is a vaccine for horses, not humans. So I thought that was kind of strange because you would think that they would want to develop a human vaccine before a horse vaccine, though my theory is that because it affects horses so much more dramatically, that's why they wanted to get the horse one out there. But it was developed in 2001, and it's 95% effective, so it's very effective. And besides this vaccine for horses, just like humans, there's no other treatment. So it's $25, pretty cheap vaccine, so they really recommend that people get it. And I just wanted to explain, there are 4 different vaccines, which again I thought was kind of interesting because, I don't know, when you think about vaccines, you're like, oh, there's one, and this one has 4. So there's 2 that are killed viruses, 1 that's a Canaria pox recombinant virus, and then 1 that's a Chimera. So that's horses. For humans, again, no treatment. You can treat the symptoms as if you had, the flu. You give them ibuprofen or whatever, bring the fever down, same thing. There is an experimental treatment called interferon therapy. So this acts like an immune system substance, and it tries to help bolster the immune system. And actually, they've tried this for horses as well, but they found that it was not good. It was detrimental. So really, honestly, for people, the best treatment is prevention. And that just means using mosquito nets, using protective clothing, using insect repellent, wearing gloves when handling sick animals so you don't get any of the body fluid on you or in your mouth. And that's just common sense. Also, present mosquito breeding grounds. Clean out your gutters, dump out your bird baths, make sure you don't have anything like tires or buckets around so that standing water can help mosquitoes facilitate their population. So basically, just like you would do anyway, there's not much we can do for this, but prevention is the best way to stop it. So these are my sources, and I look forward to any questions you guys may have for me.